information can be shared quickly and easily, even amongst lay people and parents. Practicing the type of medicine is satisfying because I help people find the underlying cause of their problem, or even better, help people avoid developing the problem altogether. It's also slow medicine. I need to take time to take a history, to assess the complete person, and to develop a mutually agreeable plan. To start, I thought we could tally the first 1,000 days, starting with preconception. Remember, the ovaries are made during embryonic life. They stay in stasis until adolescence. It takes about a year for the pre-egg to finally mature enough to be presented as part of the tertiary follicle. And the late tertiary follicles compete to become the dominant follicle, which releases the egg for fertilisation. So our little babies have been chosen for a long time before they even make it to an egg stage. The most sensitive time for this process is about 90 days prior to conception. Following this period, actually I should have mentioned the sperm are also made in that period of time as well. 90 days prior to conception following the 90 days prior to conception is the embryonic period, which includes the 2 weeks in transit from fertilisation to implantation. During this time, the organ systems differentiate from that initial little ball of cells to the little tiny embryo. This time is traditionally considered to be the highest risk time for the development of malformations, and that's a period of time when you're told don't have an X-ray, don't take drugs, don't do this, don't do that. Fetal life is divided up into the remainder of the first trimester, which is 28 days, the second trimester of 98 days, and the third trimester of 84 days. The neonatal period lasts 30 days. In our proper medical jargon, it's only 30 days that you're a neonate. Infancy is 335 days, and toddlerhood, 730 days. So that brings us up to the grand total of 1,451 days, give or take, and you'll see later why I've taken it to 3 years. This period of human development is wonderfully and astonishingly complex. It's also the period of time where an environment can have profound influences on our life trajectory. And to explain that further, I'm going to touch on some more science. In humans, each cell normally contains 23 pairs of chromosomes, for a total of 46. 22 of these pairs, called autosomes, look the same in both males and females, and the 23rd pair, the sex chromosomes, differ between males and females. The chromosomes contain DNA, which could be considered like a vast library, containing all of the information the body could possibly need to build a cell or an enzyme. However, there are further mechanisms at play here. The genes are like the books within the library. They can be covered or uncovered, read or not read, depending on the cellular environment. The science surrounding this is the new field of epigenetics. And epigenetics are closely related to the nutritional status of the individual. Epigenetics provides an explanation as to why a person who does not have asthma may have a child who does, or why a child who is conceived during a time of famine will become obese during adulthood. Epigenetics is not limited to early life. It is a process which occurs throughout the lifespan. However, times of rapid growth are when we are most vulnerable to its effects. Another important thing to understand is that the epigenetic change is heritable. That is, it can be passed down to future children and grandchildren. When I was in high school, it was the beginning of the time when personal computers were being introduced to school. It's a Commodore 64, if you remember those. We were taught basic programming and we were told garbage in, garbage out, meaning that the programming needed to be correct in order to have a usable result. The body has a capacity to make do, to MacGyver its way out of a problem, but that does not mean that it will function at its best when it's doing so, especially if it needs to do it all the time. Its compensatory strategies may even be harmful in the long term. An example of this is persistently elevated insulin from a carbohydrate-rich diet in a person genetically prone to diabetes. The elevated insulin of itself promotes inflammation, independent of blood glucose levels. If you really take time to think about the changes made to food production since the Industrial Revolution, and especially in the last 50 years, it starts to make sense that the countries of the world who have embraced these changes are the places where obesity, inflammatory and autoimmune conditions and cancer are skyrocketing. Missing or inadequate in the standard Australian diet are components critical to the smooth functioning of the whole body. The brain and mood, the immune system, the gut, the heart, everything. And so just as a refresher, I want to remind you about the role of the macro and micronutrients in the diet. Macronutrients include protein, fat and carbohydrates. There are 9 essential amino acids and 2 types of essential fatty acids. There are no essential carbohydrates. The term essential means that the body is unable to manufacture that substance for itself. Ingested fats are absorbed through the intestine and sent directly to the bloodstream, where they can be sent to storage in adipose tissue or they can be used directly for energy. The human body can also make fat by utilising carbohydrates through turning them into saturated and monosaturated fats. Fats are used for energy through a process called ketogenesis, and trans fats are not manufactured by the body, and they're usually a product of industrial processing, and when ingested, they are very damaging. This is all very interesting information because we've been taught for the last 50 years that saturated fats are evil, not realising, when you look at it from a scientific point of view, that the saturated fats are coming from the carbohydrates in our diet. The body requires essential fatty acids, which are polyunsaturated fats, generally divided into 2 groups, omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. The ratio of the omega-6 and omega-3 fats in the diet is important, and a standard Western diet tends to have more omega-6 fats than is required, and that's considered a pro-inflammatory ratio. Some of you who work in mental health might have heard that we're using omega-3 supplements to help with depression, which is now considered a disease of inflammation. And so when you think about it as a balance, then you think, well, if you're going to reduce the omega-6 fats, then you won't have to take as much omega-3 supplement. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. There are 22 amino acids used in the human body, 9 of which it cannot manufacture for itself, and 6 of which it can usually, but not always, manufacture for itself. The body can convert protein to glucose for energy, and this is called gluconeogenesis. It's more energy wasteful than using carbohydrates for energy, and the body will preferentially use carbohydrates if they're available. Carbohydrates, while not essential, are an important energy source for humans. There's currently a lot of debate surrounding the optimal dietary composition of carbohydrates, and into the future I think that this will vary on an individual basis depending on the genetic makeup, including some epigenetic effects on them and effects on the microbiome, which I'm going to discuss later. One thing that is agreed is that simple sugars and processed carbohydrates are harmful, including in individuals who do not have a weight problem. Micronutrients include vitamins and minerals. These are required in trace amounts in the diet, but their presence is essential to the myriad enzyme processes in the body. Minerals include calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, sodium, potassium, chloride and sulphur. Trace minerals include iron, manganese, copper, iodine, zinc, cobalt, fluoride and selenium. Calcium, magnesium, iodine, zinc and selenium insufficiencies are common contributors to ill health in patients in my practice. The vitamins are divided into fat and water-soluble vitamins. The fat-soluble vitamins are vitamins A, D, E and K. Vitamin deficiencies of fat-soluble vitamins are possible in people who are careful to consume a very low-fat diet. Vitamin D has recently become the focus of intense research. It's now thought vitamin D acts more like a hormone than a vitamin. It is difficult to obtain sufficient vitamin D from dietary sources, unless, like the Eskimo, you eat a lot of sea mammal blubber. Vitamin D is manufactured in the waxy layer of the skin after sun exposure. It's possible to wash this layer off before you've absorbed the vitamin D after sun exposure. And applying a good sunscreen will also stop the production of vitamin D. Adequate vitamin D is required for bone health, but it is also required for immune system health. A recent observational study showed an inverse relationship between vitamin D in cord blood and the development of early ADHD symptoms in toddlers. The water-soluble vitamins are the B group vitamins and vitamin C. Vitamin C is present in foods which have been recently alive. It's not present in grains. Two of vitamin C's many important roles include the production of collagen, which is the scaffold on which all our organs are built, and as an antioxidant, which protects against cellular damage. Humans and primates cannot manufacture our own vitamin C. Other animals which manufacture vitamin C significantly increase their production of vitamin C in response to illness or injury. And that's part of the reason why vitamin C is often recommended at time of illness. The B group vitamins are a collection of 8 water-soluble vitamins essential for various metabolic processes. Some of the B group vitamins are especially important in nervous system health, as we heard earlier today. Most of the vitamins can't be stored by the body and have to be consumed regularly in the diet. A vegan diet puts a person at risk of deficiency of some of the B group vitamins, and extended cooking, food processing and alcohol can destroy or reduce the availability of many of these vitamins. So the commonest B group vitamin we hear about a lot is folic acid, but I think folic acid is just one part of the whole story. And if we don't see folic acid deficiency because it's so heavily fortified through our processed foods, but just because folic acid's been identified as one thing doesn't mean biotin, B12, all of the others are not important as well. Vitamin B6 is especially important in young people with behaviour issues. A third group of beneficial food chemicals called bioflavonoids comprise a group of 4,000 substances. These include such things as the blue colour of fruits and vegetables and the active ingredients in cocoa. Much research is currently underway in this group of chemicals, which remains somewhat of a scientific enigma. Their effects on the body are in some ways medication-like. It might also be that part of their effect is in the microbial population of the gut, rather than on the human body itself. Eating a rainbow of vegetables every day is the best way to access this important group of foods. So that was just a quick reminder about vitamins and minerals, because having the right amount of vitamins and minerals gives your body what it needs to do to build the best body it can. And if it doesn't have the building blocks there, it's going to MacGyver its way and do something that's second best. For many years, the medical world looked upon the bowel as a waste disposal unit, filled with evil bacteria which would destroy us all if only given the chance. More recently, we have come to the understanding that this concept is far from the truth and that we need our microbes in order to live a long, healthy and happy life. Each of us carry within ourselves 10 to 10 trillion microbes, bacteria, fungi, viruses, and the genetic code of which makes up our microbiome. The microbes within and upon us live in a symbiotic relationship. They excrete chemicals which affect our mood and modulate our immune responses. Like our human genome, the microbiome is also affected by our environment. We begin to establish our microbial population when we're in utero. Research in the past 10 years or so has revealed that the amniotic fluid, placental and fetal membranes of healthy pregnant women contain pioneer bacteria which are harvested from the mother's gut by her immune system and deposited in the uterus to prepare the baby for the outside world. Vaginal birth and breastfeeding further expand our microbial population in numbers and diversity of organisms. Caesarean birth and antibiotics given in the perinatal period can deleteriously affect the establishment of a healthy microbial population. Both of these interventions can be life-saving, and so care needs to be taken in balancing the need for the interventions with the potential effect on the baby's future health. This is an area for further research. At the moment, there has been benefit shown with probiotic supplementation in late pregnancy, reducing the risk of allergy, specifically eczema in the children. However, fetuses from 22 weeks gestation respond immunologically to their environment, so optimising the maternal microbiome throughout pregnancy is important. By the age of 3, the stable microbial population is established. Each individual has a microbial diversity, a fingerprint of bugs, which will stay with that individual for life. An individual's microbiome is influenced by the food that is fed to the microbes and also substances such as antibiotics, antifungals, insecticides, herbicides, detergents and emulsifiers found as part of the diet. The microbial species adapted to a host diet consisting mostly of processed food differs from that of a person who eats mostly vegetables. The bacteria which thrive on the vegetable type diet tend to be those which are associated with beneficial effects on the immune system and also maintenance of the health of the cells of the bowel itself. This makes sense if you look at it from an evolutionary point of view. The species which have lived in a long-term symbiotic relationship with us are likely to be the ones that keep us most healthy. Now, everyone's looking a little bit stunned there. This is all new science and it's amazing, for me anyway. Now to put it all together. The first 1,000-ish days are a time of unparalleled growth. Optimal growth and functioning require better than adequate macro and micronutrients. The developing human is exquisitely sensitive to nutrient insufficiencies and to damaging chemicals in the environment. The maternal microbiome influences the development of the child's microbiome, which is also very sensitive to the child's diet and environmental toxicants. The environment of the developing child has a potential to have epigenetic effects, which can influence the life trajectory of that child's grandchildren. So, take-home message. Prior to conception, ensure that both parents are replete in vitamin D. They should both eat a varied diet rich in vegetables with a sensible amount of good quality protein and fats. Awareness that processed food can damage gut health and contain trans fats and excessive carbohydrates can make it easier to think twice when offered these foods. The mum-to-be can use a multivitamin which contains folic acid and iodine as a minimum, and people who are vegetarian or vegan may need iron or B group vitamin supplementation in addition to a multivitamin. During pregnancy, maintain a well-balanced diet rich in vegetables, omega-3 fats and good quality protein. Continue your maintenance of vitamin D and your multivitamin. Consider a probiotic supplementation. and educate both partners about breastfeeding. In addition to being a complete food for baby, humans, breast milk also contains prebiotic carbohydrates to feed the baby's developing gut microbes and probiotic microbes harvested by the mother's immune system from her gut. It also contains antibodies to infectious diseases and potentially allergenic compounds from foods in the maternal diet, probably to assist in inducing some immune tolerance in the baby. In the neonatal period, encourage breastfeeding or consider the addition of a baby-specific probiotic if formula feeding. Continue a multivitamin for mum and continue a diet rich in vegetables, good quality protein and fats, including omega-3 containing foods. Consider probiotic supplementation in the event of a caesarean birth or if antibiotics are needed for mum or baby. And continue a vitamin D supplementation or healthy sun exposure. In infancy, continue to breastfeed for as long as possible. If formula feeding, add a baby-specific probiotic and watch for baby's interest in solid foods between 4 and 6 months. First foods should be pureed vegetables, protein foods and good quality fats. Delaying introduction of solids beyond 6 months is associated with a higher incidence of food allergies, and it appears there is a window of opportunity in the baby's immune programming to allow tolerance of potentially allergenic foods if they introduced between 4 and 6 months. However, a proportion of infants are already allergic to food prior to its introduction. There are concerns that early introduction of carbohydrate-rich weaning foods could be promoting obesity. It's common for parents to be told to delay the introduction of solids to 6 months for this reason. Beware of processed foods advertised as baby food. And remember that vegetables have more nutritional value than fruits, with the exception of olives and avocado. In toddlerhood, continue to offer a variety of vegetables, protein and good quality fats at every meal. Toddlers are exerting their independence and ability to say no. Be prepared to offer food many times before it becomes a regular part of the diet. Often the only opportunity for toddlers to try meat and vegetables is with the evening meal, when they are tired, not that hungry and can't be bothered chewing. Try not to fall into the trap of thinking that breakfast needs to come out of a box. Vegetables, good quality fat and protein will set the toddler up for the day, reduce the hangry mid-morning episodes and increase the intake of prebiotic fibre, vitamins and minerals. Thank you for your attention this evening. I hope my talk's been helpful and that I haven't been too academically challenging this late in the day. I'm just going to put up a couple of my references as well. I've spent literally hundreds of hours reading and learning about this stuff, and to condense it into 20 minutes has been a challenge for me. Thank you.